Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Ichinaga's English videos. This video's theme is...
So what is your name?
My name is Randy Wong.
So what is your relationship to Mr. Ichinaga?
Well, I have known Mr. Ichinaga for very many years, since junior high school.
So what is your hometown?
My hometown, like where I grew up, is...
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cupertino, California, which is a small city next to San Jose, California, and that is near San Francisco. And Cupertino is famous now because it is where Apple Computer is located.
Aside from Cupertino, where have you lived before and for how long?
Well, I grew up in a place in the United States called Maryland, which is in the eastern United States. And then I moved to California when I was 4 and lived there until I was done with high school. So I knew Mr. Ichinaga the entire time. And then I lived in New York State for college for 4 years. After that, I moved to Texas, which is far more interesting than New York State because Texas has this really interesting personality as being a place of cowboys and blue jeans and beef, and it's a very interesting place, and it's in the central southern United States.
Yeah, that move choice was very interesting to me at the time.
It was really interesting to me at the time too.
Interesting choices.
So I lived there for 7 years, and one of those years I actually moved to the country of Colombia, which is in South America. And it sounds far away, but actually California and Texas are about the same distance apart as Texas is from Colombia, I think. And finally, after my time in Texas and Colombia, about 12 years ago, I moved back to California, and I lived in San Francisco, and now I live in a town called Santa Cruz, which is a small city on the coast of California.
What's your favorite food?
I could say so much about food. My favorite food are dumplings, like gyoza, I guess is what people would call them in Japan, right? My parents are Taiwanese, and so they like making a lot of pot stickers. And so when I was growing up, I spent lots of time making pot stickers with them, mixing up the meat and vegetables and putting them into the wrappers. And I just like all kinds of dumplings. There are dumplings from Japan, right? There are dumplings from Korea. There are also like big dumplings from Mongolia.
Okay.
There are dumplings from Poland, right, called pierogi, which I also like. And some of those, instead of meat, have like cheese with herbs like dill, or some of them have meat. And I also like a sort of pasta from Italy, but it's kind of similar to a dumpling, like raviolis.
Okay.
And you know, that's also like dough, but the inside has some cheese or vegetables and meat sometimes. So dumplings are definitely my favorite food. And lots of noodles, and I like big noodles. Like I like in Japan, I'm pronouncing this wrong, but it's udon or something like that.
We had that last night.
Yes, it was fantastic, and I'm glad that you took me to a place to have it.
And we're gonna go have udon again in the next couple of minutes.
Yes, and I also like an Italian large noodle called pappardelle, which is a really thick, wide, flat noodle. And I also like a thick Chinese noodle that's kind of sliced, kind of like the udon we had yesterday, and it's called dao xiao mian.
So what is your job?
My job is designing surveys that students will take. Sometimes there are things that you feel you want the school to do differently, and sometimes the school that I work at, it's a university, want to do a survey to ask some questions to see what things students actually want to change. And so I help to design a lot of these surveys for students to take.
And so, how long have you done this?
I have done this for 6 years. I started this job that I'm working at in the beginning of 2020, January 2020. So right before the coronavirus pandemic went all around the world.
So what are your hobbies?
I like running in forests and hiking, especially up in mountains or also along foresty areas, and where I live in Santa Cruz, and also where Mr. Ichinaga and I grew up in the San Jose area has lots of good places with green hills and mountains to hike. And I like reading lots of books about histories of places around the world and important literature from lots of countries around the world.
What is your favorite place to go sightseeing?
The places I like to sightsee are places with a lot of nature, where there can be tall trees or beautiful mountains or lots of nice lakes and beaches sometimes. And I also like seeing places that talk about the variety of cultures that people have in an area. So, for example, yesterday I went to the museum in Yokohama that was about migration of people in Japan to lots of places in the world, mostly places in the Americas like Brazil and Peru and Cuba and Mexico, the United States and Canada. And so sometimes when I go to visit a town or a place in another country, I will try to seek out that type of historical museum.
Ah, okay. So what was your favorite class or subject?
I will say that I liked world history, which we had in grade 10. And there in that class, I think I liked it a lot because we had a very funny teacher. And this was a nice man named Mr. Avakumovitz. And he really made a lot of history really interesting. And his parents were from Hungary. And one time he taught us about random Hungarian words in class by just telling us to do stuff in the Hungarian language, and then we did it, and he said, "See, listen, you understand." In any case, I like that because also in that class in world history, we learned a lot about, for example, lots of cultures and histories over time, and also in World War I, at the very end of that war, there was a lot of territorial changes to Hungary. And so it was the first time that I'd really thought about history from the perspective of countries that are oftentimes less powerful. And it's actually very useful to think about countries from that perspective. I sometimes will, when I'm trying to learn about a place that is one of the more powerful countries in the world, for example, the United States, I'll also want to learn specifically about a country next door that is less powerful, like Mexico or Canada. Or if I want to learn about a country like India, maybe instead I will read a history about Sri Lanka, which is this small country right south of India. And it gives a different perspective on how you think about how everyone else in the world relates to each other.
So what extracurricular activities did you do in high school?
I did cross-country running and track and field, which is kind of the same thing, except, you know, a track and field is on a flat track, not in a sort of hilly countryside area.
Well, that's the foresty, mountainy running that you were talking about.
Definitely is, yes. It's a sort of lifelong hobby that I hope to keep doing. And I did, with Mr. Ichinaga, some robotics type activities. And I also did a lot of community service organizations. I was the head of one of our campus's clubs doing community service, and we did a lot of things like sorting food for people who would be in our town who needed more food, or cleaning up some of the parks nearby.
So what, you were in Interact?
I wasn't Interact. I was also the president of a club called California Scholastic Federation.
So what's your favorite movie or TV show?
My favorite television show recently has been a show called The Big Bang Theory, which was on in the 2010s. And the main characters are all people who are scientists or their friends, and they are funny, interesting, quirky people. And a lot of them study physics or biology or medicine type things. And it's mostly a story about friendships among young people and how they grow in their friendships and also get to experience early adulthood in life.
So obviously we're in Japan now, but how many times have you been to Japan?
Well, this is my first time in Japan.
Okay, so where have you been on this trip?
On this trip, I went to Kamakura and saw this big Buddha statue. I went to Yokohama and I went to this cup and noodles factory museum, and I went to the Japanese migration around the world museum. And then I came straight here to Gunma.
You know, so of the places you've been to, what's been your favorite place?
I think the two temples that I've been to so far, the first one was the one with the Buddha in Kamakura, and the second place was where we went this morning here in town. You're going to have to tell me the name of the temple again.
Shorinzan, the Dharma temple.
Yes, and it was very cool to see all of the Dharma masks.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview and your time.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Mr. Ichinaga.